Data comes into the system. What happens is your vehicle generates a lot of data, whether it's using a mobile device or using some other hardware type of device. That data comes up through the cellular network or across Wi-Fi networks and onto our platform. When it first gets onto the platform, one of the initial things we do is we start evaluating the data and the data quality. And so by evaluating the data and the data quality, what we do is we're sort of cleansing the data, processing it, getting it into our data structures. So whether it's coming from mobile, some other hardware device, it all comes in through the same front door. And then we analyze that data and look at it to evaluate it for things like GPS quality or any other anomalies within the data set. And as that data is evaluated, we cleanse it if it needs to be cleansed. So there's like GPS filtering routines. So it looks at things like how far apart two GPS points are. Was this an acceptable GPS point? How many satellites are associated with that GPS point? So a lot of analytics, a lot of data cleansing, a lot of data normalization. Once that data goes through that initial processing and the process manager components, we move it into our analytics tier. And what happens there is we take all this raw data, so depending on the device and the level of granularity, this data is processed into analyzer events. Those analyzer events are things like hard brakes, left turns, right turns, rapid accelerations. There's about 20 or 30 different variables. Speed threshold violations are another examples of ones. And it's driven by how you set up your configuration. So for example, if you set a speed threshold at 80 miles per hour, you'll get events that are analyzer events that are generated every time people exceed the 80 miles per hour threshold. And those analyzed events then drive into our scoring applications. Again, you're not limited on scoring just a single variable or single event. So we generate typically like 3 to 18 different types of scores. And maybe more depending on your configuration. Some of these are going to be ones for your internal use, some of them are going to be customer facing. But even with our individual scores, we have scores are built upon score segments. So we have scores and we have score details. And so every single score is broken down into individual components. So whether there's a final score that's generated, which will drive somebody's discount, maybe it's made up of a hard brake score and a turning score and a rapid acceleration component of the score. So all these different pieces and parts that come together generate the final scores, and those get passed on to the system. And again, you have access to all of this data. So one of the unique things about DriveFactor and how we provide data to you is that you have access to this raw data, you have access to the score data, you have access to these analyzer event data, where you can then take this data and you can process it on your side. So your analysts or your actuaries, they can actually interact directly with our data platform to pull that data out and generate their own insights, their own scores, and we make that available to you. So we actually create a read replica or a copy of the real-time data, and it's actually updated almost in real time. So it's typically within the last few seconds of the data actually being generated, you'll see real-time data streaming into this read-only environment, and it allows your analysts to connect to it with tools like SAS or SPSS, and they can generate their own insights and their own information that we can then work together with to bring back into the platform and generate really a unique model that is a unique score for you, or a unique new variable that can be used in your scoring. And then once data comes out of the scoring side of the platform, it's then available to you either through these read replicas or reporting. We have standardized reports that we send out to all of our customers that share all this detail and all this information. We also generate customer reports depending on what your needs are. So there's a lot of things that we can do with this data to make it available to you. Even some of our customers take that data, they actually digest it, generate some of their own scores, and push those scores back into our environment. They're then used in custom portals and things like that. So there's a lot of ways we can get this data out to you, as well as calculate unique variables that are unique to your insights and what you're trying to drive from a consumer experience or from a underwriting standpoint.